Hello, welcome to MarketBeat Mondays. We're so glad you're here with us today. If you haven't hit that subscribe button yet, we'd love to have you be a full-time subscriber to MarketBeat. We are live every Monday for MarketBeat Mondays, going over all of the big market moves from the last week, anything that you should watch in the market coming up this week, and then we will take live suggestions excuse me, from all of you guys too. So if you have a stock you want us to talk about today, make sure that you put it in the chat. We will try and get to as many of those as we can today. And of course, our MarketBeat Monday guests and our analysts are MarketBeat analysts Thomas Hughes and Chris Markoch. Guys, so great to have you with us on Mondays. These are always so fun just to see what everybody watching wants to hear about. We're going to get right into that in a minute. But first, we're going to start with some of the news of the week and just go through some of the headlines and the things moving the market right now. Let's talk about Jackson Hole because Friday ended gangbusters. Everything was doing great on Friday, and Monday's looking a little bit different.
Well, right. Jackson Hole, to me, not really a whole lot came out of it that was exciting. The market did really latch on to the comments in the speech and Mr. Powell's speech that kind of led it to believe that there was going to be interest rate cuts at the next meeting. And really, my take on what he said was that, like, maybe there could be interest rate cuts if the data, aligns with it. But the statement really was telling me that, maybe there won't be interest rate cuts because the data might not align with it.
Yeah, so it wasn't necessarily a home run for you, Thomas. You weren't quite sure that this is actually a guaranteed rate cuts are coming, even though on Friday the market kind of reacted in a way that it seemed like a all but sure thing.
Yeah, well, we're right. I would say the market was pretty certain that it was going to happen.
Chris, how about you? Did you have a different reaction to Friday's speech in Jackson Hole?
Slightly different. I don't think. I certainly don't think the home run, the market. I don't think the speech was a home run, and that's what the market took from it. But I think I think it was a solid single. Jerome Powell doesn't like to surprise the market, and I think he has set the stage very clearly that there is more likely than not going to be one interest rate cut in September. However, I took from that speech that there's a pretty good probability that this is going to be a one and done. So he's going to do the rate cut in September, and then it's going to be like, okay, that's it. That's the one you get for this year, and we're going to see how everything works out from there. But I think in general, his history has been he doesn't like to surprise the market, and I think he gave the market what it wanted. What the market did with that information was took on its own momentum.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, really good look at. Thanks for sharing both those different perspectives in there. I was just looking in the chat. I see we have somebody here for the first time. Iris, thanks for coming. We're glad to have some first-time viewers coming to join us. We're going to be here for about 45 minutes or so. I love the list of different stocks coming in. It's a big one. Chris and Thomas, get ready. There's lots of names coming. Let's cover a couple of the other big headlines of the week, and it's Nvidia earnings week. It's basically like a holiday in the stock market, right? Nvidia earnings week is coming up, and what is the stock doing heading up leading into earnings right now?
Today it looked like it was all right. It moved higher. We closed with a gain. We're trending right there by the all-time highs. I would say that this market is setting up for another move higher. It's certainly expecting another good solid report. Analysts are forecasting a 50% rise in revenue, strong margins, good cash flow. Based on the trends, there's a high probability we'll get outperformance and a strong guidance. And that's really what the market wants, and that's where the risk is kind of expecting the outperformance, expecting the strong guide. So in this scenario, Nvidia could give what is otherwise a very robust report, very robust guidance. But if it's not like outpacing the top end of the expectations right now, it's possibly not going to be enough to get the market to move higher.
Yeah, that'll be interesting to see. I think Nvidia earnings in the year that I've been doing this and we've been talking and following these live, it always does kind of the opposite of what we expect it to do. And so even a blowout earnings, the stock can still drop afterwards. I think we usually see this kind of run up, Chris, don't we? Where just before earnings, it usually starts to see this little boost, but there is always that chance, no matter what comes out in the report, that we could see a pullback afterwards.
Yeah, you already know that the report's going to be good because of what we've heard from some of the company's largest accounts. You've heard Meta, you've heard Alphabet, you've heard Microsoft all say they're increasing spending on the data centers, or at least they're maintaining the numbers that they've already thrown out there. But to Thomas's point, if they only slightly beat and or only provide slightly better guidance, yeah, the stock could fall, and that's just reality right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the reason we cover Nvidia so much, and the reason we say that this is kind of like a stock market holiday, is because the rest of the market likes to react to whatever is going on with Nvidia too. I'm pulling up a heat map right now. We were talking about earlier, a lot of things are down today except tech. Do you think that has a lot to do with Nvidia earnings coming up?
I think it does. I think there's plenty of uncertainty in the market, so there's reasons for investors to kind of, ignore the risk on stocks and go back to the leaders. But also with Nvidia reporting this week, it should affirm the entire AI story, which is robust spending on infrastructure and deepening or widening, broadening services, which all of the Mag 7 stocks are pretty well positioned to benefit from.
Yes, very good. Well, that's a good look at Nvidia, a good look at some of the news today. I think there's more we can dive into of things that you want to make sure to watch out for the rest of the week, and we're going to get into that at the very end of our broadcast today. So at about 3:45, we'll look at what you need to pay attention to coming up the rest of the week that could absolutely move the market. This is something we always want to pay attention to on these Market Beat Mondays, is to get you ready for what's coming this week so you can be prepared for any of those big market moves that might be coming. But first, let's get right into some of these stocks that you guys are talking about. I always say, if you watch our videos throughout the week and you leave me a comment on there, I will add it to the list to talk about on Monday. So eHelp had a comment on a video earlier for a couple of stocks that we're going to get to first. We've got Open. This is one that we've talked about on here before. Opendoor Technologies. I'm going to pull up that chart real quick. This one had a nice jump in the last 5 days, almost 54% in the last 5 days. What's going on with Open, guys?
Yeah, my short and sweet take on it, Bridget, is I think this really dovetails very nicely into what we were just talking about with the Fed speech. I think this is a stock that's become a very tradable stock, and I think you have a lot of traders that are latching onto the idea of interest rate cuts and what that may do for the housing market. And you've got a company like Opendoor that's digital first, into AI, going to make the buying and selling process a lot more seamless. And I think that's all well and good, but my personal opinion is I think this is jumping the gun a little bit, because I don't think even if a rate cut comes of a quarter point, that's not going to do much for the housing market. Sorry, don't mean to be Johnny Raincloud here, but I think that's jumping the gun a little bit.
Yeah, I kind of agree with Chris, and just talking to the stock price, rapid increase certainly is a meme quality to this market, and it's 21% short. So we have, short covering and short selling involved. If you look at the chart, there are certainly some pretty big, jumps in price. And then the very next candle is a doji, which shows people are selling into those rallies. So we've got some short covering, we've got some short selling, we've got some meme quality, rally going on. So I would be careful with this one.
Yeah, it looks good with all the green up here of all the movements recently, but I think it's a good advice, especially with a penny stock territory kind of stock out there too. The next one we're going to move to is also penny stock quality, but it's had a huge jump recently. This was eHelp's other one, OPAD, Offerpad Solutions. Not heard about this one yet. That's what I love about Market Beat Mondays. We talk about a lot of stocks that I've never talked about before. So we've got a new chart to pull up. Offerpad Solutions. This is kind of penny stock territory, but 227% jump in 5 days. Not bad.
Yeah, Thomas and I were talking about this before we came on, and it was hard for me to find out what exactly was the catalyst that started the run up. But now that it's started to run up, the short interest in this stock has increased by 35% in the last month. And so I think what you've got going on now is, once the stock started to pop, you've got a lot of shorts that are trying to get out. And I think you've got at least a mini short squeeze going on right now. Again, that's good for traders if that's the kind of thing that you're into, and you can capitalize on it. But you have to be very careful as a longer term investor that you don't get caught up in this, because this could easily go against you very quickly.
Right. We're looking earlier trying to find the catalyst for this move. And like the best that we can figure out is that the company has been making some strategic shifts. They've recapitalized. They've focused on some asset light services. They're expecting to boost sales and earnings quality, which is all good in a technology AI driven real estate company. But again, it's a very small company, very early stage in the turnaround, plenty of risk. Talking about the short interest and the stock price action, you can see on the charts, looking on the daily charts, today's spike did not set a new high. All right, it was capped at the highs that were set earlier this summer. They were selling at the close. Big giant upper shadow on the candle shows a lot of resistance. Certainly possible that the short sellers are repositioning at this level. Certainly possible that this market will not be able to move much higher and that there will be some profit taking and some pulling back here in the next few days and few weeks.
Well, that's a good brief look at those two stocks. And again, if you're new to MarketBeat Mondays, that's what we do here is we take a brief look at some names that we haven't prepared for. We're just looking at cold right now. So they're names that are coming in on the chat of some different stocks. And our guys are going to take a couple of minutes to look at the charts and then give a brief analysis of what might be going on with those different stocks. So let's get into some of the cold looks at some of these stocks coming in right now. The first one we want to look at is AUR. Thomas, you can look up that, AUR. And then Chris, if you want to look up CORZ. Both of these I'm not quite sure, so I'm going to pull up their charts right away. I'll start with AUR.
Yeah, Aurora. Right, they're building a self-driving vehicle platform. The Aurora driver certainly has some demand for that and a future for self-driving technology. But what I'm seeing in the news stream is just some questions about the progress that it's making, its capitalization, balance sheet. There's plenty of headwinds for this company. All of these things are leading to elevated, not really high, but elevated short interest. Things to give you cause for concern and possibly reason to be less bullish on this market. Looking at the charts, we're moving sideways for the last year, well off the highs. It looks like maybe the market's getting ready to move lower. But again, it's just mostly a sideways movement. I think a market, kind of having a lot of hope, but waiting for something to happen to kind of affirm the hope.
Yeah, I'm looking at the upside really quick, and I think that's what's interesting about this one. Maybe why Charmaine, I think Charmaine is the one who wanted to hear about this one. 80% upside is not bad. I mean, the consensus price target at 1075 is pretty great on this one. Not a lot of analyst coverage, but any thoughts on a stock at this buying point where it's a little bit lower right now than where it's been on those highs? Could there be a chance for some upside?
All right, so I'm looking at the analyst data. And certainly the trends are positive. We've got increased coverage, firming sentiment, and an uptrend in the price target. The last revisions were released in May. So these forecasts were issued earlier in the year when possibly there was more hope in the market. And since then, I think the results have not really affirmed that outlook. And I would expect to see possibly analysts start, trimming targets, trimming some of their forecasts, and certainly a risk of that moving forward, I would say.
Yeah, is it at all interesting that we didn't have any analyst revisions sooner than May? That May is the most recent analyst revisions that we've had?
It just means that the earnings report in July didn't cause them to alter their outlooks. So they're still kind of in wait and see mode. What we really would want to see is for the subsequent reports to affirm and to build on the outlook, something that would catalyze and spur the analysts to improve their forecast, because really it's the trend in the forecast that drives the markets more than the forecast itself. Consensus price targets are not super reliable, but if you can see the analyst coverage is improving, if the revisions are leading the price target higher, those are positive tailwinds for market sentiment and price action. In this case, the market's just kind of floating there, waiting for something to happen. What that is, I mean, who knows what it could be? It could be a development in the technology. It could be a deal. It could be the next earnings report. But that's not due out for another, 6 or 8 weeks, I think. So there's really a pretty solid risk of this market moving sideways and potentially even moving lower before then.
A good look at this company. Thanks for bringing that one up. We'll do one more of yours, Charmaine. I think this one is CORZ, Core Scientific. Pulling this up, it looks like a digital asset mining. Chris, tell us a little bit about this stock.
Yeah, I think the thing that's interesting about the stock, and what I think investors need to know right now, is that so they reported earnings on, I think it was August 7th, August 5th, August 7th, August 5th, August 8th. And they announced at that time that they've entered an agreement to merge with CoreWeave. And so really there's not a lot to go with, because they didn't issue any forward guidance, because they said with the merger pending, they basically said we're not giving any forward guidance. So I think that's where the interest in the stock comes from, good or bad. It looks like the merger news hasn't moved the stock that much. It's down just a fraction for the month, and down about 3% in the last 5 days. But that's the big story here, is they're going to merge with CoreWeave. They've been in a partnership with CoreWeave for about a year, and now it looks like that's changing into a formal merger. There's really not much else to say about the stock right now.
Interesting. Well, while we're talking about it, I'm also going to pull up CoreWeave if you guys want to give us somebody asked about having an analysis on that one too. I'm guessing that announcement must have come out around this mark in July, when the stock saw a nice little jump at that time.
Yeah.
Yep. Reacting to the news. Why are they partnering? Do you know anything about what they do and how it fits into what CoreWeave is doing?
Well, Core Scientific is, Bitcoin mining services, so they have a lot of probably parallel businesses, parallel segments, a lot of synergistic kind of operations that would fit in with CoreWeave, which began as a Bitcoin services and is now expanding into more, AI data center specific services.
Right.
Yeah, I'm pulling up the chart for CoreWeave right now. This stock has just been on quite the run up all year long. Why are we seeing so much growth in CoreWeave?
That's the outlook for AI growth. I mean, the demand for computing space is huge. This company is going to be providing Nvidia Blackwell GPUs and upcoming Rubin GPUs as a service. So there's a pretty solid outlook for demand and for revenue. And once they get its network built out and it's able to meet the demand, there should be pretty good profits and cash flow.
I think with CoreWeave, I do want to talk about what to expect if you get into this stock. Just looking at the chart, this is very typical IPO story, it seems, where it just went so high to the moon right away, 184, and now we're down at around 92. It had that nice little growth spike a couple weeks ago, where it was at that almost to 150 mark, and now we're back down so much. That's a lot of volatility for investors. What's your advice if you're looking at getting into this stock? And is there a chance for it to kind of level out at some point, or is it just so new that we're going to continue to see this kind of volatility?
It could experience volatility for a while, because AI and this new service that it's trying to provide they're like unplumbed. We don't really know. I mean, we have an expectation for it. Those expectations could be affirmed or not affirmed. They could be built upon. So I think on a quarter-to-quarter basis, we're going to see some volatility. I would expect to see the stock trend higher over time. So the lows will be higher, the highs will be higher. But in between those points, there's potential for some pretty big moves.
Yeah, we're definitely seeing that. Some good stocks to look at today. Thank you for the suggestions, everyone. We're going to move on to some of the next on the list. Let's go ahead and do Nextdoor. Amir has been asking for this one for a while, so we'll get to Nextdoor. Thomas, if you want to look that up really quick. And then let's do let's do UAMY. I have no idea what this one is. I don't even know if it's a big stock or not. We'll see. UAMY, Chris, if you want to look that one up.
UAN or M?
M as in mom. UAMY.
Okay. All right.
All right. So Nextdoor, ticker symbol is KIND. It's kind. We're having a little kind stock today. It's a neighborhood network that connects neighbors, businesses. I don't know. I'm on Nextdoor in my neighborhood. I don't know if you guys have.
Yeah, right. It's like social media for neighborhoods.
Exactly.
I would say that it kind of works for us, but what I've noticed is that it's pretty much just an extension of Facebook now, because it's not just my neighborhood. There's people from all over the county on there, and it's like, I don't need to know about your neighbor's dog barking and biting people because you live way across the county, right? But that's my take on it.
It is an interesting like social media platform. It's a very unique concept, which I think is
Right.
interesting to talk about. Useful in some ways, like the lost dog
Right.
situation, but also just an interesting story. I think if we look at the
Yeah.
stock story, though, the chart isn't. I'm not able to pull up a full chart. I just have kind of the smaller chart for this one. Looks like
Well,
Trading
right.
View is not showing this one.
Well, it's just IPO'd recently, I think. I've only got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 or 7 weeks. Yeah, 6 or 7 weeks of bars. It looks okay for a post-IPO movement. The market is moving sideways, but that second week is pretty sketchy looking. The market surged up to about 250, it looks like, and then it slammed back down. And so now we've got a pretty good amount of overhead. So we could see some upside movement, but I would expect to see the 250 level provide resistance and cap gains unless there's some kind of a catalyst, which would need to be some kind of improvement in the outlook, profitability, something along those lines.
All right, a good look at Nextdoor. Thanks for talking about that. And again, I let me know in the chat if you've heard of this company. I know my neighborhood is on it. A lot of different neighborhoods are on it. It seems like it's been around for a while. So an interesting one to bring up, Amir. Thanks for bringing that to our attention. I know it's a more recent IPO, so interesting to get into that kind of familiar name. All right, let's move on to the one that Chris is looking at for us, and that's UAMY.
Yeah, so this is United States Antimony Corp, and so they are they're a smelter for precious metals and other basic materials, silver, gold, precious metals, and zeolite products in the United States and Canada. So it's sort of a precious metals play, but their products transfer into a lot of other industries once they're once they're done with their process. So I see the stock's been going up over the last month. I would presume actually it's been going up actually strongly for the last year. And I think that's just in tandem with the whole move in precious metals itself. From what I'm seeing on their website, they don't actually own any proven reserves or probable reserves of antimony. They get those from foreign sources. So that's my 50,000 foot view of the stock. It's a tiny company.
Yeah.
Not yet profitable.
I'm looking at the consensus price target right now, Chris, and that's the the consensus is lower than where it's at today, and even the highest side of analyst outlook is $5, which is pretty close to where the stock trades today. So it seems like it's run up pretty well. Again, I'm sorry this chart is giving me the invalid. I don't have the full chart for everyone on the live, but anyways, we can still look at this. It seems like it's had just a good run up. We can see how much growth it's had when I look at the chart, and it looks like year to date performance of 172% upside. This seems to be on the high side of the stock.
I agree. This is starting to look a little bit. The run up is starting to look a little bit tired here. Again, I'm not seeing it on MarketBeat side. I'm looking. It's had a nice trend up. It's up about 35% in the last month. So again, I think right now there still seems to be some demand for it, but I'm not looking at this as being a sheer precious metals play. But I think this is a stock that's in alignment with where the Trump administration wants to go in terms of trying to have manufacturing like this and control of our supply chain and mining and metals and stuff in the United States. So I see the interest in it, but I'll be honest, this is the first I've ever heard of the stock, and it's the first I'm looking at it, Bridget.
Yeah, that's what we do here is we just look at these kind of cold call. I'm going to go to a couple more familiar names, and then we're going to pull into some that are less familiar. I'm actually going to tell you a couple of the less familiar ones that seem interesting. Mohawk wants to know about WPLCF. as a long-term hold potentially. So Chris, you can look at that one, WPLCF. And then another one we're going to look at in just a minute is Opera, because that sounds interesting. OPERA as another stock ticker. So we'll look at those two in just a minute. But I think we can talk a little easier, Thomas, about Snow. I'm pretty sure you and I have talked about Snow before.
Right.
What is that company about again?
Snow, they're a data-centric data
Right.
management, cloud services. The story with them this year is really extends back about 15 months. Last year, they got a new CEO, kind of surprising. The new CEO has really reinvigorated the business, reaffirmed the growth outlook, even bolstered the growth outlook. So the stock price has really been in recovery mode since earlier this year. The last 2 months, we've pulled back to what I would call a critical support level within the longer term trading range. So the market showing support not only at this technical level, but also above a cluster of moving averages. So what I'm seeing here is potentially a shift in the market dynamic, getting back, back behind and in support of this new CEO and the outlook. So provided another good earnings report. I think they're due out this week or later on in the week. Another good report could see this market moving higher again.
Yeah, I just have pulled up the report. Yep, that looks interesting. They'll have more coming up this week. The analyst forecast on this one is also there's some upside there, which is great, about an 18% upside, especially to where it's pulled back right now. Do you think this is a good entry point? I know you've talked about it before as a good long-term play just because of how much demand there is in this sector.
Right. It actually does look like a good entry point. Like I've talked about before, this market made its move. It broke above critical resistance. It has since pulled back to reconfirm support at this critical level. So showing support at that level is a technical buy signal. That buy signal is being backed up by the analyst trends, which include the increased coverage, the firming sentiment, and rising price target. Price target is up like almost $60 in the last year, looking at 18% upside at the consensus. But the trend is to the high end range, and that puts us near 260. So that's another $30, almost 15% upside on top of the 18%. So yeah, this one looks pretty good right now.
Yeah, I'm glad that whoever brought that one up. I'm sorry I don't have the name with it, but yeah, thanks for bringing that up. I think this is a good time to look at that stock. It's a company we've talked about before on the channel. Let's get to some of those lesser known ones that Chris is looking into. What have you found out so far, Chris?
Okay, so I'm looking at WISE. That's the WPLCF. Okay.
Okay.
So this is an interesting company. They're a UK based financial technology, so fintech. So it's in that fintech space, and so what they're known for is low cost international money transfers. So what excites investors about this is there's a massive market here for cross-border payments. The market's set to be trillions of dollars annually. And so they're competing right now against traditional banks, incumbents like Western Union, which right now charge very high fees. They offer poor exchange rates. So that's where WISE has an opportunity to disrupt. It's got a peer-to-peer model that it matches flows in different currencies. So that's again where it's providing the service for cheaper than what these banks or Western Union provide. And they've been growing their customer base. It's over 10 million active customers, growing steadily year over year. They're already profitable and cash flow positive. So there's a lot of things to like here if you're investing in the stock. Something to watch is that as I'm looking at the stock chart, they look like they're right about they're within about 10% of the consensus target right now, which is I'm seeing $16.19. So that's something to be careful about. The other part is that they are going to face competition from traditional banks are starting to fight back on this. They've got competition already from companies like PayPal and Revolut. And I think there's an emerging story there with blockchain and crypto. That's not, I don't necessarily think, a threat today, right now, but I think that could be a threat later on, especially with, especially if you look at altcoins like Ripple.
Well, good. That's a good analysis of that one. Again, I without knowing much about the company, I think you gave us a good look at it. Thank you for that. Let's look at that other one. That if you had a chance to look at this, Opera, OPRA.
Right.
I'm sure I did not have a chance to look at
No,
that.
I did. I got it.
Good.
We're all good. Opera,
I hope
OPRA. So they provide mobile and PC web browsers and related services. This would be like a Google-like company. Right now, what I'm looking for the first glance is that we're growing, we're outperforming, we've got positive cash flow, pays a dividend worth 5%, appears to be safe right now at 60% of earnings. And the analysts are pretty positive on it. So it's all pretty bullish outlook for this stock right now.
Yeah, I think what I like about this one is seeing that it's on that lower end of that 52-week range and it has such a strong upside when you look at that lower end of the range. So, is there a good enough market for it? Again, I know it's just a brief overview of the company, but for what they do, is there a lot of demand? Are we seeing a lot of growth in that area?
Well, they're growing at a double-digit pace and they're outperforming. And whatever they're doing, the analysts like it because what I see is increased coverage. We got 6 analysts, not a ton, but that's enough to have, a fair amount of coverage. Unanimously rated as a buy. So they're all rating as a buy, not a moderate buy, but a solid buy. Price targets are rising. So not a lot of increases over the last year, but at $25, the consensus is offering more than 50% upside. So that's pretty good. Pretty good. So a company with profits and dividends, it almost seems too good to be true. We need to dig into it more, but right now it looks like it's pretty solid.
Yeah, very good look. We've got a couple of people asking about Bitcoin because that market's had some different moves. So let's get your latest thoughts on Bitcoin. I mean, we had a crypto specialist on the channel over the weekend or on Friday, right when all of the moves were happening. Anything to be looking at right now? The Bitcoin ETFs or anything else in the market?
It's funny you say that, Bridget, because I was looking at something today and because I was actually wondering why the price of Bitcoin went down so sharply over the weekend and into today. And one of the comments, one of the research notes that I read was talking about how there might be a shift happening right now where some people are getting out of Bitcoin and they're shifting into Ethereum and some of the other altcoins. Certainly, we didn't see that in the price of Ethereum, but the price of Ethereum didn't dip as much as the price of Bitcoin did. So I don't know, maybe there is somewhat of a shift going on between out of Bitcoin and into Ethereum and some of the other altcoins.
Right. I will say Ethereum, it didn't hold it. It's pulled back from it, but it set a new high recently. That's pretty significant. Yeah. If the market moves back above that level, that'll be one of those significant pivot points that we've talked about in the past. In this case, breaks the market out of almost a 6-year trading range that's worth $3,500. So this market could be pushing $8,500, $9,500 within a few months if we get that break to the upside. The indicators are also pretty strong. Volume has been rising. MACD is bullish and convergent. All very positive signs. Speaking to what Chris said about this shift, I haven't read about this though, but there is a big difference between Bitcoin and Ethereum that could be like underpinning this shift. Bitcoin really is just like money. And kind of breaking it down, this is an analogy that I heard a long time ago. Bitcoin's like a phone. You can call somebody up and say, hello, here's some Bitcoin, and send them the Bitcoin. Ethereum is more like a smartphone where you can do that calling and you can send Ethereum, but you can also run tons and tons and tons of apps on Ethereum. Ethereum is really a global financial computer. It's going to become, to me, the basis, the foundation for global blockchain economies because of what it can do. All these smart contracts that can be tied into its network. And so I think with what Chris was saying with the shift, that makes sense to me because, Bitcoin was the first wave, and now Ethereum would be the second wave. And if, the original Bitcoin investors are now shifting into Ethereum, that's a pretty good sign.
Yep.
That's a little overview of what's happening in crypto. Thanks for everybody who commented on that. It's hard to ignore when you see such big moves happening in another major financial market out there.
Yeah.
Let's get to some other stock names. We've got a few minutes left here. I'm going to get as many in as we can. One, Thomas, I know this will be you, giving a quick little, the question we've had a couple of times now is Oklo versus SMR. Which would you suggest kind of compare the two? I know we've done this recently on the show, but we'll do a quick little dive into both of those. And then the other one we have several people who want to know about, Chris, I'd love for you to look into this, is Richtech Robotics. RR is the symbol. It's a small penny stock, but it looks like it's been doing pretty well. So I'll have you pull up that one, Chris. Thomas, why don't we dive right into the energy stocks?
Right. So Oklo, SMR, both are pulling back. Like we talked about last week, I think the pullbacks are really just because the recent earnings reports didn't improve the outlook. The outlook is very robust right now. But we're still looking forward to about 2 to 3 years until commercialized operations. So both of these markets are probably going to, possibly trend sideways, maybe trend higher, but there's going to be some big swing. Well, looking at the charts, if you had to pick one over the other one, to me, it looks like Oklo's market is stronger. It didn't pull back nearly as much. It's already confirming support at some critical levels. So to me, if you were going to pick one over the other, I think I would be leaning towards Oklo.
Yeah, that's an interesting look. I'm pulling up SMR. We've done several videos in the last 2 weeks talking about NewScale Power, and this stock just seems to be on a little bit of a nosedive. It had the smallest little uptrend the last couple of days, but there's lots of different people commenting, watching these videos where we talk about NewScale. I know, Thomas, you're a fan of the concept. You think there's a lot of potential, and there's no denying there's a lot of investing and interest in nuclear right now. But some people are saying that this is just a pump and dump scheme, that you see people on the internet talking about it, trying to get kind of a squeeze into SMR. Do you buy any of that, or is this just kind of natural market dynamics?
I think it's market dynamics, and I don't want to say that there's not reason for concerns, because the stocks certainly have made pretty significant upswings. They're still, pre-revenue companies, pre-profit companies, but this isn't, fly-by-night technology. This isn't like startup, emergent technology. These are proven technologies that are on a path to regulatory approval. So I think over time, these stories will play out. Between then and now, there's certainly going to be some volatility. I was just trying to look up and maybe see why Oklo could be in a stronger position than NewScale, and just touching base on the pipeline. NewScale has a potential catalyst coming up. We're expecting them to announce their first firm deal for a U.S. reactor by the end of the year, which would be awesome. It'll help, accelerate their commercialization timeline. But Oklo's already got a pipeline. They've already got some deals in place. So as far as one business versus the other, they're both well positioned, both doing very well. But Oklo has a stronger foothold with its business future, with an already established pipeline.
Yeah, I think that's a good look. I was just looking, both of them seem to have a downside from analysts right now too. They're both still trading above that consensus price target. Oklo's 10% above, and then NewScale is trading 3% above its consensus. So that's an important thing to look at too with these two energy companies. Really quick before we move on to the next ones, any thoughts about energy in general, the whole sector? Are we seeing any energy stocks in any area really gaining some traction right now?
I noticed today, just on the heat map, that ExxonMobil was one of the big movers today. Whatever that means.
Yeah, I did notice that too.
Yeah, very good. Well, thank you for looking into those. Chris, let's get into Richtech Robotics.
Richtech Robotics. So yeah, interesting company. Again, I'll admit this is the first time I'm looking at it. So this is a company that is playing into that whole robotics area, which we know is a very hot market. What this company does that's more niche is the fact that they they focus on specialized adaptable robots. And of course, as we know in this market, they're integrating with AI and the Internet of Things. So that's the idea, is that these smaller adaptable robots can handle some tasks that traditional robots can struggle with. And that's where the company is leaning into. The bull case is that that's going to lead to higher margins and sticky revenue over time. That's They're leaning into like the global e-commerce market and warehouse logistics and things like that. So that's yet to be seen. The cautionary tone, I guess I would strike right now, is this is a crowded area. Robotics is a crowded field. You know, it looks like Richtech's got a foot in the door, so that's positive. Looks like generally bullish analyst sentiment on it. The chart is, things are consolidating kind of around that 50-day moving average. So you could see a spike in the stock as it goes up. But what I'm seeing is revenue has declined year over year in the last couple of quarters. It's not a profitable company. So certainly it's one that you're going to want to watch. And I could see people wanting to get into this as a long-term investment, but you're going to want to watch that path to profitability and see if they can actually turn the corner there. But it's an interesting company for sure in a very hot sector right now.
Yeah, that's a really good point. It's a very Intuitive Surgical, is that the other one? That's a robotics one. We had somebody Waldo commented and said that RR has robots in hospitals delivering medication to patients. So that's interesting.
Right.
I know Intuitive Surgical is the other one, right?
Yeah, but those are different kinds of robots, though. Intuitive Surgical is making robotic surgery machines, where this other company is making robotic service machines. Still awesome robotic technology, different business models.
Yeah. Just for fun, I pulled up Intuitive Surgical because it's been a little while since we've talked about this one. It was on our radar a few months ago. And I'm looking, there's a little bit of red happening with this company. It looks like their 1 year to performance, year to date performance, everything's down. Any reason why Intuitive Surgical stock would be seeing so much red right now?
I haven't covered them for a quarter or two, I think, but possibly the growth outlook was slowing, or some concerns about profitability with the tariffs and whatnot. But I am seeing pretty solid support near current levels around 470. Would be a decent time to look into a buy. Yet not necessarily pull the trigger, but certainly looks attractive right now.
Yeah, looking at the upside for this one, that's 27% upside on Intuitive Surgical. It looks like RR also had, I think, like 36% upside. I know Doridio commented and said that 18% upside wasn't enough for him. That made me laugh. So I don't know what kind of upside you guys are looking for, but I think in this market, that 36% upside, looking and seeing almost a 30% upside is pretty good value to be found in these stocks yet. They're just kind of trading towards that low for whatever reason.
Bridget, I didn't cover ISRG, but I used ISRG as one stock that I wrote in a recent article I did on robotic stocks. And, they had a very strong earnings report. Maybe you could point to slightly slower international growth. This is a valuation story right now, from what I could see. They're trading around 74 times earnings, which again, that doesn't necessarily mean, that was expensive for them. And, so that's probably the reason why the stock's under pressure right now. Is again, it's going to take a lot more than a solid earnings report to justify the valuation. But they're growing, and they're getting more and more of their Da Vinci systems adopted. And once they get those systems in there, they have a service component as well as the Da Vinci system itself, and that's where they get a lot of their revenue.
Yeah, machines are the front end. It's the back end is all the supplies and the tools that the machines use. Procedure volumes have been growing. What I see in the numbers is, like the last 2 years, we've seen double-digit growth, outperformance, widening margin. Right now, growth is accelerating. I mean, really not any reasons for the stock to be pulling back, except, as Chris says, maybe it's the valuation.
Yeah.
Valuation numbers. So we're like 58, looks about 26, 27 times 2030, which may be a little high. But yeah, this is just maybe a market that got a little bit ahead of itself.
Right.
Give it some time for the numbers to catch up with the expectations and where the price is, and the rally should be able to continue over the long term.
I do want to just bring this up because this trend is so interesting to me. We had a big video over the weekend on robotics and how this is the next future of AI. You know, we have AI and then you have embodied AI where you have robots actually that are intelligent and are able to do much, much more. And so this is going to be that next area of investment for AI is robotics. And it's such a buzz right now. Everyone's talking about it. But the 3 robotics stocks that we covered, are not doing so great. And analysts are really, really bullish on it. I think that's the other interesting thing to look at with like Intuitive Surgical. If you bring that up, even the recent revisions as recent as this month, and it's 615, and we're nowhere near that right now. Or we're fairly close to that. Or no, the actual price isn't the consensus price target. That's an upside of that. So anyways, I think that's interesting to see that analysts are bullish. Everyone is saying, you know, the tech experts are saying this is the next big sector is robotics, and yet the stocks aren't performing that well. I wanted to pull up another robotics name is Path, PATH, eHelp. Thank you for bringing that one up. That's also kind of underperforming right now. Down a little bit, and then it's another robotic stock.
Well, Path has been a hair puller for me. I think that this stock should have been rocketing higher a while ago. It's robotics, but it's not physical robots like what you're thinking. They make it's automation. They make bots for your computer to help automate your business. But it's business automation. I mean, they should be rocking it out the way that like these other automation companies are doing, like Salesforce and the like. You know, there's plenty of application like Workday, Monday.com, all lots of great companies applying automation, doing much better than this company is. So again, like I said, this is just a hair pull. I don't know why it's not doing better than it is.
Yeah.
Good discussion on robotics. I like it. We're going to end with talking about some battery companies. I feel like they come up every single live that we do, but we're going to get into it. So I'll talk about our last 3 stocks, and then we're going to get into what we're going to look ahead to this week. Let's talk about, before we get to the 2 battery companies, we've talked about this one before, NVTS. We had a few people ask about it. I'm pulling it up, guys, right now. So Navitas Semiconductor, it had a nice little spike at the start of June, and now it's been on a downtrend recently. I think the question might be, is this time for a pullback right now? Just pulling up that chart. It's down about 30% for the month.
I just got to retouch base with which one this is. There's a bunch of little small ones. Power semi. Yeah, right. So this is a U.S. based semiconductor company. Should be well positioned for the domestication of semiconductor manufacturing.
Right.
Navitas is it now the question is foundry. Navitas is not a foundry, so it's getting its chips from other companies. Power chip, so it could have some tariff headwinds. It could have some import restrictions. But it's also pretty well positioned, I think, for the long term because of the types of semiconductors that it makes, which are some of the SiC silicon carbide and the gallium nitride semiconductors, which are really applicable for high power situations, which ties into the batteries that you want to talk about, the high discharge batteries. So I think it is a good stock. Potentially could be a good time to buy. Chart looks. Yeah, it looks like the market's been reinvigorated. As we've said before, moved above critical resistance, has now pulled back and confirmed that resistance as support. This looks like now the second time it's testing. Assuming we get another buy signal here, I would say this is a pretty great looking time to buy this stock.
Very good. Well, let's get to those battery stocks. I know Reese wants to get to this one. MVST, Microvast. And then the other one is our favorite AMPX. Everybody asks about it every week. So we'll talk about what's happening with that one. But Microvast, let's talk about that company right now. It's still such a penny stock, but I know we've touched on this company before.
Yeah.
I don't think I know much about that one. NVST.
MBST.
It looks like, just pulling up the chart full screen here, it's finally going back up after a 3-month, going down 31% in 3 months, which is not great for this one. There's a slight upside from analysts.
It got an I see it got a bullish upgrade from Zach's research from a hold to a strong buy, which is nice. It did just make one jump, it made two. And it looks like that's coming off of the company's earnings report. They came in light on the top line, but they were still up year over year by about 10%, and the company was profitable again. So they went from being they were expected to turn a profit of 1 cent earnings per share, and they delivered 5 cents. So it looks like
That's pretty good.
Analysts are responding to growing revenue at least year over year, profitable company, and that's something that the markets like to see. Short interest is still a little high on the stock. It's still over 16%, and it's up in the last month. So there might be a little bit of profit taking going on there. That's why it might be down 17% in the last month. But
well, the question is it a time to get in on this stock? I think
Yeah.
one other thing that I saw, I want you to answer that, is now a time to get in. But the other thing that I saw that is interesting is if you look back at the analyst price targets from last year, it had a couple of people really thinking it was going to go gangbusters. We had Cantor Fitzgerald thinking at 8, and it was 11 and $8 price targets. Clearly nowhere near there, and they have gone down from there. Why do you think there was so much initial excitement for this company?
They just were expecting it to, maybe revolutionize batteries, pick up some more deals than what it had. Probably expecting the EV market to continue growing the way that it had been in the past, but all those things have not come to, they're not reality anymore.
Right.
Not actually happening. All right, well, let's get to our favorite last stock. I think we've ended the last 3 MarketBeat Mondays with this stock. We're going to go to Amprius Technologies. And Thomas, if you want to take it away talking about this one, of what's been happening with it. It's now around 768.
Right. So I don't think that there's been any news since last week or since the last report. But what's happening is this company has, built up its production capacity. It's built up its pipeline of deals. It's got a lot of demand. Revenue growth is here. Hyper growth is here. Acceleration is here. Profitability is here. All these things are expected to strengthen and grow over time. And you can see this in the stock price action. This market is in rally mode now. What I've seen over the last few weeks is the market moving up to hit that recent high, pulled back, confirmed support, and it's been moving sideways since then. We've got a potential bullish pennant or bullish flag pattern that, if we get a confirmation, could see this market rising. Let's see, 250 to $7. Yeah, like up into the $15-16 range pretty easily. I think that aligns with what a lot of the analysts are saying recently too. So again, we get that good report, affirms this outlook. The analysts will start raising their targets again. So this $16 to $17 target I'm talking about becomes a low end target.
Yeah, interesting.
So Thomas, you're saying that the July, where it started in July, went up really high, like that really July spike. You're saying that could really repeat itself.
Well, right. So, the market is an animal. It's a beast.
Right.
It's driven by fear and emotion. And technically speaking, in these chart patterns, the market's very reflexive. So if it moves across one pivot point, the movement that follows that will reflect the one that came before it.
Right.
So, base case scenario would be that the dollar movement, that would be the low ball target. So if the movement was worth $10, you might think that the market would move another $10. But then the bull case scenario would be the percentage move. So if it moved up by 100%, you might see it gain another 100%. It's just, it's
right.
The one thing I wanted to point out, I think Michael was asking about, there's no PE ratio listed on this one.
Because they haven't made any profits yet, but that's part of the story. Their technology is proven. They've proven their manufacturing capacity. They've ramped capacity to a level where they're able to have like commercial level production. They've got deals in place. They're starting to have revenue. Let me look at these numbers to make sure what I'm saying. And so, revenue growth has been running in the high triple-digit range for several quarters. We grew 350% in the last quarter. We're still producing operational losses, but with the outlook for growth, we're looking for revenue to grow by triple digits again the next couple of years, probably outpace these targets, expecting profits by 2027, probably before that. Puts the stock's valuation down in the low single digits by 2035. So there's certainly a robust outlook for this market. My forecast could end up being very, very low when we see this company, revert, but actually pivot into profitability and start, showing profits.
Yeah, this is definitely one to get on pullbacks for sure. Well, guys, I've kept you so long today, but I do want to finish out the way we always do, which is talking about what to look ahead to this week. I want to just speak directly to people in the chat right now. I'm sorry if I missed your stock. I'd love to get to every single one. I like everyone to get their stocks covered, but as we get more people involved, I can't quite get to all of them. So I'm going to put them on the list for next week. We'll try to cover them right away, even before people start giving suggestions. We're so glad that you're here, and we love that you're sharing the stocks that you want covered. Let's just finish up real quick with what you're looking ahead to this week. That could be some big market moves this week.
Well, I think the big things on my list right now are Nvidia's earnings report on Wednesday. I think that'll be the big market mover. We get a good report, it could move the entire market, not just that single stock. There's a GDP revision on Thursday, but then the really big news will come on Friday with the PCE price index. Right now, the forecast is for core inflation to accelerate on a year-over-year basis, which to me does not align with a Fed rate cut next month.
Yeah, I think I heard something on Friday that said Jerome Powell gave his prediction was that PCE was going to come in around 2.9%. So I think that's a number for investors to look at. If the number comes in as expected, which a lot of people believe it will, because they believe Powell wouldn't have thrown the number out there if he didn't have a pretty good idea that it was going to hit that number. Then I think we're probably going to be okay. If it comes in hotter than that, you could see the market start to sell off, especially going into a short week. And we're heading into September, October, which are typically weak months for stock anyway.
Yeah, there could be some major moves this week. I know we ended last week on such a positive note that a lot of people kind of went into the weekend with a really great mood, but we're back to reality now. There's more moves happening.
I want to point out for people to keep on their radar, the Fed meeting next month is the same week as triple witching options expiration. So I would expect that no matter what happens, there's going to be some volatility, either prior to or just after the announcement. There'll be plenty of positions being unwound, probably new ones being picked up. So just be aware of that.
Yeah, that's a great point, actually.
Really good. While I still have some viewers with us right now, I wanted to share that we are starting a new live stream. I'm starting it not with Chris and Thomas, but we have some trading experts. If you are at all into trading or thinking about trying to get into it and learn a little bit more, we are going to be doing Trading Tuesdays. So Tuesdays at 12:30 Eastern time, we are going to have a special guest who are all in the market, all on trading from Trading Pub. They are going to be on Tuesdays for a live stream talking about the top trades of the week. This week, for fun, just because we like to try and confuse you, I'm going to start it on Thursday. So Tuesday didn't work this week. So Thursday at 12:30 Eastern time, join me back here for a live all about some of the top trades of the week. It's going to be a really great show. I hope you can join us then. And we're going to switch that from Thursday to Tuesday starting next week too. So every Tuesday at 12:30 Eastern, put it on your calendar and come join me and the guys from Trading Pub as we look at the top trades of the week. All right, Chris and Thomas, thank you again so much for your time today. This was a really great conversation today. And thank all of you for joining us in the chat. We love all the comments coming in and for watching with us this full hour today. You got a little bit of an extra show today than usual. As always, everyone, happy investing.